Hey guys, this is Jay Calderon with Jay Unboxing here, giving you my immediate reaction to the pay-per-view bout at Cruiserweight between YouTube personality Jake Paul and MMA and amateur wrestling standout Ben Askren, which of course took place here on Saturday in the United States, airing live on pay-per-view, and we will be getting into that as well as the role that Triller tends to play in boxing now in a little bit here. But before that, be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. I do greatly appreciate it. Now, for a brief recap of the fight, and the fight itself was brief, you did have Jake Paul come out on top with a first-round technical knockout after the referee deemed that Askren was no longer fit to continue. It was scheduled, I believe, for 8 rounds, but it did not even come close to finishing that. I think it finished about 2 minutes tops, and Askren was hit with a nice, solid, straight right hand that buzzed him, dropped him pretty hard, and he did seem like a guy who probably didn't prepare all that well, and so he was considered unfit to continue, especially considering he got hit fairly well by Paul in that fight. As far as fights go, obviously, as is the case with so many of these sort of circus fights, you had a build-up that out-punched the fight itself in some respects. You know, they were back and forth. You had threats of violence. They were talking about family members and wives and all of these sorts of things. There were funny moments. There were more intense moments of physical violence. And then yet, in the end, you had only one of the guys show up and actually look like he was interested in putting forth any kind of decent performance, and that was, in some unique sense, Jake himself. Askren, on the other hand, a trained athlete who has competed in several sports, including amateur wrestling, and on an Olympic level, including MMA, seemed to be the guy who maybe was showing up for just check here. It's interesting because you have so many people who would love to rid the sporting world of someone like a Paul, but quite frankly, he was the one who actually showed up ready to fight. Askren had no business thinking that he could strike with pretty much anyone. You know, people make this weird thought or whatever before the fight that, well, at the end of the day, he's still an athlete. He's still going to give Jake Paul a lesson here because at the end of the day, he is an athlete who's going to know how to box. But the fact of the matter is, he is not good at striking at all. And while you can be an athlete, and that could mean you're great at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or amateur wrestling or whatever it might be, it doesn't mean that you're ever going to be able to take all of those skills away, give someone just their hands and say, make something happen. At the end of the day, it was basically 2 novices in the ring, with one taking the sport far more seriously. And I'm actually someone that has supported Askren in the past. I thought he was good for MMA. I think he's a very vocal and interesting and entertaining guy. He's very well spoken. He's an entertaining character. But here, he just didn't show up. And you have so many people who are looking to discredit Paul. But again, I reiterate, he was the one who actually showed up looking ready to fight. He was the one who looked like he trained. He was the one who looked like, for whatever you think he's trying to do, whether it's money or fame or just, this is just a way for him to kind of legitimize himself, whatever you think it is, he actually is intent on trying to do it. If it's trying to earn money, he looks like he's training very hard because he wants to earn money. If it's trying to, prove that he's a tough guy or get out of the shadow of, look, whatever it is, it's motivating him to take this sport more seriously than a lot of the guys that he's faced. And it's funny because, again, you hear all these people that keep getting basically nominated, whether it's Nate Robinson, whether it's Ben Askren here, to kind of be the one to step up and take Jake Paul out of boxing. But the reality is the people we're nominating, quote unquote, to take him out are the ones that shouldn't be involved in it in the first place. He's the one actually trying. I don't care about his antics. I don't care about him on YouTube. I've never watched a single Jake Paul video in my life, and I never will. That's inconsequential. As it pertains to the sport itself, he is the only one that's been involved in these fights that I can tell has actually given a damn about the sport in any single sense. We have to get over this idea that just because we hate somebody, that they're the one that's doing the thing wrong here. He is actually taking the sport more seriously. He is the one that's actually trying to make more money. He's bringing eyeballs to this sport. And the people that he's choosing to fight are not great opposition. And of course, I'm sure to some degree he is making selections that are going to benefit him most. But that doesn't mean that they have to say yes. He could be put into a position if people wanted to respect the sport enough to say, hey, you know what? I'm not involved in that. I'm going to say no, until finally he has to face someone who's at least half decent, who has at least half a chance. But that doesn't happen. They jump into the ring and think it's an easy payday. They're going to be able to beat up this little YouTube punk, and it's going to be an easy night for him. And then what ends up happening? He knocks him out in some comical or embarrassing fashion. And at this point, it's almost like, you know what? Good. That's what should happen. The people who take this sport less seriously should be punished for it. I'm happy it's taking place that way. Am I going to root for Paul every single time he fights? No. It'd also be nice to see him get knocked out. I'm a pro wrestling fan. I love to see the heels get what's coming to them eventually. But at the same time, I'm always going to credit him for actually having A, the balls to get into the ring, and B, the respect for the sport to actually take it seriously enough to train for it and properly prepare. Which brings me, of course, to Triller, the promotional outfit that effectively put on this show with very, very mixed results. You know, they kind of stepped onto the scene with a bang with that Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones event that featured Paul actually in his second fight, the fight before this one, and that was with Nate Robinson, which had a highlight reel knockout as well. And you had a very good show with, again, the main event being a focus and an emphasis on two people who, of course, take the sport seriously, and that's, of course, Mike Tyson and Roy Jones. Now, whether or not you think they should be doing that or fighting or what, that's inconsequential. At the end of the day, it's an exhibition. That's what it was marketed as. They have put in blood, sweat, and tears, including years, into the sport. They have the right to make a little extra money if they want to, and we as consumers have the right to buy it or not buy it. And we did buy it in droves. Over 1 million of us did. But at the same time, if you're going to compare the offering that Triller gave us with that first event and the second event, I'm not liking the trend because it's getting worse and worse and far more out of hand. Whether it's again, including participants more and more in bigger, more prominent bouts where they don't even seem to give a damn about the sport, where you have commentators who, I don't know which one you'd have to pick was on what substance at the time when they were making these crazy comments and statements, but it's just embarrassing. It's if I invited a friend over who was a casual fan of boxing or maybe thinking about getting into the sport and wanted to watch it, and this was the event I showed them, it's embarrassing. It looked terrible. I'm not saying aesthetically it looked terrible. They put on a decent enough show. It looked presentable. But in terms of the actual substance, after you get beyond the sizzle, the steak of this show was just awful. And again, I can't totally blame Jake. He wants to make a living doing this. He is the one taking it more seriously. And out of everyone that showed up outside of maybe Regis Prograis, I'll give credit. Steve Cunningham and Frank Mir, they at least look like they were putting forth the best effort they can at this moment right now. To be honest, it looked like two 40-year-olds were like, hey, let's not hurt each other too much. We'll just get paid and get the hell out of here. Credit to them. It's fine. I didn't expect much out of that fight anyway. But in terms of the primary events here, you have, without getting too much into the details here, you have Aiden Redkach just pretending to get some sort of flagrant foul that stretches him out of the arena. And then you have Ben Askren showing up with just what has to be described as, piss poor shape and getting knocked down by a guy who, according to him, he would kill if they met in a dark alley. Yeah, not if he got his hands on you first, dude. At the end of the day, it's just, I want to see other people get into the sport, and Triller's a great example of something that can work, but I hope that the people in charge of the promotional outfit realize that there's a there's a thin line between Cirque du Soleil and the circus. And you want to have the performance, but you don't want it to get to the point where it's a freak show. And this seemed to be bordering on that a little bit. In any event, let me know what you guys thought down in the comments. Would love to hear you. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and follow at jcalderon_job. You can email me at junboxing@gmail.com. And of course, you can visit junboxing.com for schedule, results, betting odds, all that kind of stuff, including rankings. And as always, until next time.